Good morning.
Yeah, I did. I had some good family time.
I love a party rowdy room. Good morning. Thanks for being rowdy this morning. Welcome to worship at Second Baptist today. Whether you are here in person being rowdy or at home maybe getting settled, we are so glad that you're here to worship with us today. I think that God knew we needed this place. I think God knew that we needed these people today. I think that God knew we needed to be a little rowdy today as we greet each other in God's love. We're a rhythmic people, and these weekly patterns matter, I believe. And I think God knew that about us and created that into the fabric of who we are. So welcome to this sanctuary today. All you have to do is be present here as you are, and you are welcome. If you're visiting with us, we are especially glad that you are here today. Thank you for joining us. There is a visitor's card in the pew in front of you. We would love to have a record of your visit. And if you're worshiping with us online, there is a visitor's card in the comment section as well. If you do an in-paper one, there's an offering plate in the door, and you can put it there on your way out. It's a good day to be in worship. It's a good day to be with these people. It's a good day to center ourselves for the week ahead as we worship the God who made us. It's also a good day because I get to squeal in person in front of our new children's minister who is here in the flesh. Ah! CJ, would you join us? Y'all, he's here. Meet CJ. CJ officially started on Monday, and he has been hard at work preparing for VBS. I think you sent like 50 emails in your first week.
There were a lot of emails.
Yeah. His excitement, his thoughtfulness, and his creativity are already hard at work, and I'm so excited. I'll just stop gushing. VBS is coming, and he's been super hard at work, so I'm just going to get out of the way and take my gushing to that pew and let him tell you about what's coming. But y'all, CJ's here.
Hi, y'all. It is just beyond a joy to get to actually look out on this church and to be able to join y'all in all of the many ministries that you're doing. I feel like I have had this long on-ramp just to get excited and to get hyped, and now we've moved, and I've just started my first official week here, and it is so good to be at Second Baptist. And it is also good that we have our VBS program coming up at the end of next week. So if you have a river kid or a city kid, and you want to get them signed up, it's not too late yet. We have a really exciting program called Seekers and Sneakers, which is all about play and exploration and geocaching, which I have watched a lot of YouTube videos on. So if you would like an explanation, happy to provide it. But it's all about allowing our kids to discover who Jesus is for themselves and get to discover the joy and goodness of what it means to be in Christian community with each other. So lace up your sneakers, get ready to work, and come see me if you have any questions, or we have links out and about. So it's so good to be with y'all. So thank you.
This very room, there's quite enough love for one like me.
And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for one like me. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For Jesus, Lord Jesus, is in this very room. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For Jesus, Lord Jesus, is in this very room.
Would you pray with me? Most gracious and loving God, we are gathered here this morning as your beloved community, a transformed people with hearts ready to hear your word. Bless us this morning, O God, that the songs we sing and the praises we offer would ring sweetly on your ears. Draw us near, Holy One, that we might experience the depth of your love and be held in your sacred embrace during this time together. Allow us, O God, to use this time to restore our souls and to discover ever more deeply the ways you are working for the renewal of all creation. Thank you, Holy One, that we get to spend this time in worship together, and may it be an instrument of your peace and love in the world. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Good morning, church. Will you please stand as we lift our voices together and sing this morning?
Through every battle, through every heartbreak, through every circumstance, I believe that you are my fortress, you are my portion, you are my hiding place. I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe through every blessing, through every promise, through every breath I take. I believe that you are provider, you are protector, you are the one I love. I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe you are. It's a new horizon, and I'm set on you. And you meet me here today with mercies that are new. All my fears and doubts, they can all come true, because they can't stay long when I'm here with you. It's a new horizon, and I'm set on you.
be seated.
I'll be reading 2 Samuel, the 5th chapter, verses 1 through 5 and 9 through 10. Then all the tribes of Israel came to David at Hebron and said, "Look, we are your bone and flesh. For some time, while Saul was king over us, it was you who led out Israel and brought it in. The Lord said to you, 'It is you who shall be shepherd of my people Israel, you who shall be ruler over Israel.' So the elders of Israel came to the king at Hebron, and King David made a covenant with them at Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed King David over Israel. David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years. At Hebron, he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months, and at Israel, he reigned over all Israel and Judah 33 years. David occupied the stronghold and named it the City of David. David built the city all around from the Millo inward, and David became greater and greater, for the Lord of hosts was with him."
In the text that Lisa just read, David, who had already been recognized as king by the southern tribes of Israel, was now being recognized by the northern tribes of Israel. They had been committed to Saul, but they saw the writing on the wall, and they said to David, "We want you to be our king too." So in this scene, there is a formal and united monarchy with David as the king. Given this centralized power, David decided to move his capital from Hebron, a smaller town, to Jerusalem. And he began to build up Jerusalem as the capital city. This was a strategic move because Jerusalem was not part of any singular tribe, and therefore it was a way of David showing that he wasn't playing favorites with any tribe, similar to how Washington, D.C. is not a part of any state. The city of Jerusalem was, from its inception, associated with David. Come to think of it, the Bible spends a lot of time talking about actual places. This is different from a lot of religious literature in ancient cultures. A lot of other religious cultures talk about what is outside of time and outside of place, but the Bible spends a lot of time talking about what is inside of time and inside of place. You pick up the Bible and you read about actual places: Egypt and Bethlehem, Babylon and Cana. People shape places, and places shape people. Imagine with me how a child growing up on a farm in Arkansas is raised with a little different consciousness than a child born in a densely populated neighborhood in Little Rock. How they see the world differently. Imagine with me religious spaces like this. How the worship of God in a grand cathedral with vaulted ceilings shapes worship. The instruments that work in that space and the instruments that absolutely will not work in that space. And small, simple A-frame churches on hillsides in northwest Arkansas, and what worship is like there, the instruments that will work in that space and the instruments that will not work in that space. People shape places, but places shape people. As we pray today, I want you to bring your imagination and your memory before God. There's not just one way to pray, y'all. I believe anything that we lift up Godward becomes prayer. Singing is prayer. Working can be prayer. Taking a nap can be prayer. Anything can become prayer if it's lifted Godward. Which is to say that praying is not just about words. It's about our humanity. This morning, I want to invite you to bring your imagination and your memory before God and consider all the places that have shaped you and shaped us. Center yourself. You can keep your eyes open or closed. Take a deep breath or two. Consider with me and with God this morning the places that shaped your childhood, your earliest days. Give thanks for those places and those people who lived there then and live there still. How do those places continue to shape you today? Consider with me the places in your life right now, maybe even the daily places that you usually do not notice. Your favorite chair, your desk at work or whatever your workplace looks like, your dining table. Consider the places in your life right now and how those places are shaping you. And consider with me this place today. We are all in this very room. How has this place shaped you? Or how might it? If this is your first time today, or you don't have much history in this room, maybe this place will turn out like Jacob in the wilderness, who after a night of holy dreams woke up and said, "Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." Will you open yourself to that possibility? And if you've been here your whole life or have history in this room, consider how this place has shaped your life. The baby dedications and baptisms the weddings, and the funerals. All the songs sung, all the prayers prayed, all the scripture read in this very room. In the Bible, when people had a sacred experience with God, they often built an altar there as a reminder. Will you find your sacred space, whether it is in this room or some place in your life or some place from your past, where the presence of God is present? And in your mind, build an altar there. As creatures, O Lord, who were made from the dust and will one day return to it, we give you thanks for the places that have shaped us. In turn, help us to shape our places so that they reflect your goodness and your glory. And all praise to you, the God who doesn't just show up in sacred spaces, but who shows up in all spaces and makes them sacred. To you be honor and glory and majesty forever. The God of Nazareth, the God of Egypt, the God of Cana, the God of Little Rock, the God of 222 East 8th Street. In your name we pray. Amen.
As you're able, will you please stand as we continue and sing our worship this morning?
Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to Thee. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of Thy love. Take my feet and let them be swift and beautiful for Thee. Take my voice and let me sing, always only for my King. Take my lips and let them be filled with messages for Thee. Take my silver and my gold, not a mite would I withhold. Take my intellect and use every power as You choose. Take my will and make it Thine. It shall be no longer mine. Take my heart, it is Thine own. It shall Show me your ways. That I may walk with you. Show me your ways. I put my hope in you. The cry of my heart is to love you more, to live with the touch of your hand, stronger each day. Show me your way, stronger each day. Show me your way. Show me your way. Show me your ways. Amen. Please be seated.
Mark 6, 1 through 13. He left that place and came to his own town, and his disciples followed him. On the Sabbath, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many who heard him were astounded. They said, Where did this man get all this? What is this wisdom that he has been given to him? What deeds of power are being done by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, and brother of James and Jose, and Judas and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us? And they took offense at him. Then Jesus said to them, Prophets are not without honor, except in their hometown and among their own kin and in their own house. And he could do no deed of power there, except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and cured them. And he was amazed at their unbelief. Then he went about among the villages teaching. He called the 12 and began to send them out 2 by 2, and gave them authority over the unclean spirits. He ordered them to take nothing for their journey except a staff, no bread, no bag, no money in their belts, but to wear sandals and not to put on 2 tunics. He said to them, Wherever you enter a house, stay there until you leave the place. If any place will not welcome you and they refuse to hear you, as you leave, shake off the dust that is on your feet as a testimony against them. So they went out and proclaimed that all should repent. They cast out many demons and anointed with oil many who were sick and cured them. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
Out of the mist of history, he'll come again, sailing on ships across the sea to a wounded nation. Signs of a Savior like fire on the water. It's what we prayed for, one of our own. Just wait. Though wide he may roam, he goes where no one has gone. But always a hero comes home. These lyrics are from a song by Idina Menzel entitled A Hero Comes Home from the Beowulf soundtrack. And you might think that that's the sort of song they would be singing when Jesus comes home to Nazareth. He's been gone for a while now, and things have been happening. His fame is increasing. He's something of a hero at this point. He went into a synagogue in Capernaum, and everyone was amazed at his teaching. Even the demons cried out from a possessed man, saying, "What business do you have with us? We know who you are, Jesus of Nazareth." and he rebuked the demons, and the man convulsed on the ground of the synagogue, left the man. That's church, by the way. Have you even had church unless demons have been exorcised from a man who's convulsing on the ground? That's church. People, their eyes were opened, and they said, Who is this guy? Jesus got into a boat and crossed the sea to the land of the Gerasenes, where there was another man possessed by demons who lived in a cemetery amongst the dead. His only community was with the dead, and he cut himself and yelled and screamed every night. He was more alive than dead. The demons recognized him again. We know who you are. And Jesus cast the demons out into a herd of swine that ran down into the lake and killed themselves. Deviled ham, I like to say. It's like the preacher version of a dad joke, right? But I can't let it go. I just got to say it every time. When the pigs died, the town tried to seize Jesus, and he slipped through their fingers and went on his way, as Jesus does. And then the story we talked about last week, where he raises Jairus' daughter from the dead while also healing a woman from her issue of blood. And the crowds began to follow him, and people began to believe in him, and people began to recognize who he was. He goes where no one has gone, but always a hero comes home. And so Jesus came home to Nazareth. He goes into the synagogue on the Sabbath, just as he did in Capernaum. And when he teaches, the people are astonished, just like they were in Capernaum. But their astonishment was of a different sort, it seems. Their astonishment was not positive, but negative. They seem to be saying, who does this guy think he is? Now, when this story is told in the Gospel of Luke, when Jesus goes to Nazareth and preaches in the Gospel of Luke, Luke tells us what Jesus said. Jesus reads from the scroll Isaiah, you might remember. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he's anointed me to preach good news to the poor, to set free the captives, recovery of sight to the blind, and proclaim the favorable year of the Lord. And he rolls up the scroll and sits down and says, today the scripture is fulfilled in your hearing. And the whole congregation spoke well of him. But Jesus couldn't leave well enough alone and said to the congregation, but this text is not just true for you. It's true for those folks too. It's true for people outside of Israel. And they began conspiring about how they might kill him. The difference between a good sermon and a bad sermon is sometimes one line. Mark doesn't tell us what Jesus said in his sermon, just that people were astonished and not in a good way. And Mark doesn't tell us exactly what it was that disturbed them. Maybe they couldn't get over their memories of him as a child. Some people can only see you in one stage of life, and you're kind of frozen there for all eternity, even when that's not who you are anymore, right? That's probably happened to all of us. When I was a child, my best friend at church, because we were half the youth group in my church, was a boy named Scott. Scott was funny, and I had an impeccable sense of humor. And so we made it well. He loved to laugh, he loved to play jokes, and one night, Sunday night, fellowship dinner of the church, we're in the fellowship hall, and Scott, for kicks and giggles, put a gummy bear in his nose and then proceeded to eat it. I mean, holy things like this happen in church, y'all. My dad, this was the worst thing that could have happened. My dad saw the tragedy in real time, and it scarred my dad. And Scott was 16 years old, and my dad would say, Scott, do you remember that time that you put that gummy bear in. I think if Scott was president of the United States, my dad would say, I remember that time he put a gummy bear in his nose and then he ate it. Frozen in his mind, some people can't recover from the things you did as a child. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe the people of Nazareth felt some guilt in all of this. That this man had grown up in their community right under their noses, and they could not see his wisdom or his gifts or his graces. How did we miss him? We could have put his name on the water tower, hometown of Jesus. You can't beat that. How did we miss it? Or maybe it semi-offended them that one of them could ascend to speak and preach things like this. They ask, isn't this the carpenter's son? Isn't this Mary's son? Elbow, elbow. We know the kinds of things Mary said. Don't we know his folks? In that stratified society, everyone had their place, and Jesus seemed not to know his place. We don't know, but for whatever the reason, it was familiarity with him that bred their contempt for him. It was the people who knew him best who knew him least. It was the people who heard his first cries who could not hear what he was saying. It was the people who saw his first steps who were blind to his identity. Isn't this the carpenter's son? Isn't this Mary's son? The Gerasene demoniac believed Jesus, saw Jesus, recognized Jesus, believed Jesus. The demons in the Gospel of Mark see, recognize, believe Jesus. But the people of Nazareth in his own hometown cannot see him. To which Jesus says, a prophet is not without honor except in his hometown. A prophet is respected far and wide except amongst his own people. And I like how Mark tells the end of this story. Mark says Jesus could do no miracle there. Jesus could do no miracle there. I mean, he laid hands on a few people and healed them. But other than that, Jesus did no miracle there. Even when Jesus doesn't do much, he does much. And Jesus began to wonder at their unbelief. The crowd is astonished by Jesus, and he's astonished at their unbelief. It's mutual astonishment here, where they're talking past each other. And then Jesus left his hometown and began going village to village teaching. And he called his disciples together and told them to do the same, sent them out 2 by 2 with no possessions to speak of. And when they entered a house, Jesus said, I want you to stay there. And if anyone refuses to receive you, just dust your feet off as a testimony against them and go somewhere else. And the disciples go out and cast out many demons and anoint many sick people with oil and heal them. There's an inversion in this text. In the Gospel of Mark, the disciples are usually helpless and hopeless. They don't get it. But in this story, Jesus can do no miracle except heal a few people. But the disciples have grand success. They seem to do what Jesus could not in this story. You know, a huge part of life is knowing when to leave. A huge part of life is knowing when to stay. And a huge part of life is knowing when and where to show up in the first place. I think we spend a great deal of our lives trying to figure that out. When to show up, when to stay, and when to leave. Knowing when and where to show up is a huge part of how you live your life. It says a lot about what you believe. Where you put your body says a lot about who you are as a human. I would venture to say that where you put your body says as much, if not more, than where you put your money. I would say that where you put your body says more about who you are than what your Facebook page says about who you are. Where you put your body says a lot about what you really and truly believe in this world. In our digital age, I fear we've minimized the importance of showing up. We've come to believe that we can do life fully on one side of screens, and it's all the same. We've come to believe that social media is connection, when really social media is a communication tool on a long list of communication tools that can be used to connect or disconnect us. But it's not the same thing. A communication tool is not connection in and of itself. Jesus in the Gospels puts his body in a Gerasene cemetery, in a synagogue in Capernaum, on the wrong sides of the track, on the streets of Jerusalem, and even in the synagogue in his hometown. He kept showing up, and that's a huge part of life. In fact, I've been thinking about the women, the bold women who came to the tomb that first Easter Sunday. And there wasn't tons of grand virtue about them. They didn't know what they believed in that moment. They just showed up. And they became heralds of unthinkable newness simply because they showed up. Y'all, there are few things in life that can be redeemed from far away. And there are few things in life that can be redeemed by shouting from a distance. One of my favorite writers says, no one can be redeemed with whom we're unwilling to eat. Even the whole Jesus event itself would indicate that God believes in showing up as a form of redemption. Where you put your body is bearing witness, even if you say nothing about it. So show up. Show up to your friendships. Show up to your relationships. Show up to your own internal life. Show up to your faith community. Show up to your friends. Show up to the people that matter to you. Show up to your own life, because if you miss it, it's your life you're missing. Show up. And stay. Jesus told his disciples to stay. In the very same way that most things can't be redeemed from afar, most things can't be redeemed quickly either. It takes time and patience and resilience. And our culture is not much for that either. Oftentimes we're more committed to our ideals than we are real, fallible people. Bonhoeffer, the great German theologian, once wrote that the great enemy of real community is idealized community. Most people don't want real community. They want a fiction in their minds. But when do we begin to love real, fallible people like us? It is easy to check out when things get hard at the first hint of conflict and difference, and yet those are precisely the moments of growth and opportunity for relationships and organizations and institutions. A short-lived showing up isn't much of one. And in Jesus' own life, he embodied for us forbearance and patience and grace and all the things that allowed him to journey with his disciples. Stick-to-itiveness. Do you know how many times I say to Jesus, don't you wish you could have just picked 12 different ones? Like, do over. But he stuck with them. It takes time to build trust, y'all. It takes time to nurture communities of love that can sustain deep truth. It takes time to work out the things that life demands we work out. Deep truth cannot be sustained by shallow relationships. I think one of the reasons we are a society embroiled in untruth, where we small talk with each other, is because we don't have the relationships that can sustain deep truth. Because that takes vulnerability to speak and hear. But once you tell someone you love them, the small talk is over. You can't small talk with someone after you've told them you love them. At that point, it's only about the things that matter. What if church is the trust-building institution in our day, where nobody trusts anything, where there's enough love to sustain the communication of truth between us, but that demands we stay, that we're committed to each other for the long haul. But, as this story would indicate, there's also a time to leave. And Jesus is not oblivious to the fact that not everyone will hear the message. And we shouldn't be oblivious to that fact either, y'all. Some people will not hear our message. You start saying that love is the pinnacle of the Christian journey, and some people will say, you're watering down righteousness when you talk that way. You say peace is the end to which we're called, shalom, wholeness, and some people will say, that doesn't work in this world of violence. That's utopian dreaming. It doesn't work, though. You start talking about truth, and people who have invested in systems of untruths will resist you. Not everyone will hear our message. And when Jesus is not heard in Nazareth, he moves on and he encourages his disciples to knock the dust off their feet when they encounter the same thing. It is not always easy to know when to stay and when to leave. I've gone on enough journeys with you in this room various times in life when you were trying to discern, is this a time to stay or is this a time to go? When is it right to leave a job? When is it right to leave a relationship? When is it right to leave a church? I don't think there are any answers, any easy answers to that. And most of the time, the person in the situation knows more than anybody that can say anything from the outside. But maybe a few thoughts today. When staying in a place would demand you reduce your humanity, I don't mean reduce your ego or your pride, but I mean reduce your humanity. That might be a good time to hit the door. When the person you're in relationship with seems more intent on misunderstanding you than understanding you, when the other person works harder to misunderstand than to understand, that might be a good time to leave. When you have done everything you can to redeem a thing with no sign of growth, go. There are some people who cannot hear because they have their fingers in their ears. And there are some people who are blind because they refuse to open their eyes, and I think that's a miracle that not even Jesus can do. In all of this, follow Jesus' lead as best you can. Where Jesus shows up, show up. Where Jesus sticks it out, stick it out. And where Jesus leaves, leave. When I've had a hard time leaving something, it's usually because I thought I was the one who was going to save it, that God wouldn't redeem it unless I was there. And it was faith in me, not faith in God. But St. Bonaventure once wrote, God is the one whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. God is the one whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. My friends, neither you nor I are God. We can only be in one place at one time, so let's be wise about our places and trust all the places that we are not to God. Love people by showing up in their lives like with your body, even if those are surprising places. Stay in communities, in relationships, churches that are worth it even when it's hard. And when it gets hard, lean in, get to know the real people, get to know their stories, listen people to deeper conversation, and commit to real people. But when your gifts and graces are better spent somewhere else, when people will not listen to the message of Jesus, when people cannot see the identity of Jesus because they will not, move on. Because just because you leave doesn't mean God does. After all, God is the one whose center is everywhere, but whose circumference is nowhere. Stick with Jesus. Go with Jesus. show up with Jesus, whatever. Do it with Jesus, and you might even see greater things than Jesus did, which is saying something. Because even when it looked like Jesus didn't do much, he did much. And all God's people said, Lord, give us wisdom enough to know when to show up. Give us wisdom enough to know when to stay. And give us wisdom enough to know when to leave. With our eyes on you the whole journey through. It's in the name of Jesus that we pray. Amen. If God has spoken to you in some way today, inviting you to a relationship for the very first time, or renewing something that's grown cold in you, maybe responding to vocational ministry for the very first time in your life, I don't know. There are a million decisions. However the Spirit is prompting you today, I would invite you to show up to that decision. Will you stand with me as you're able this morning and sing with me?
The Spirit sends us forth to serve. We go in Jesus' name to bring glad tidings to the poor, God's favor to proclaim. We go to comfort those who mourn and set the burden free. Where hope is dim, to share a dream and help the blind to see. Then let us go to serve in peace, the gospel to proclaim. God's Spirit has empowered us. We go in Jesus' name.
We have our July 2nd Thursday lunch this week. Rebecca Glazier from UA Little Rock will be with us. She, for over a decade, has been doing research on churches and their external relationships, their impact in community, and has written a book about that. Second has been one of her partner churches and a staple in that research. So if you want to learn more about that, I find Rebecca to be a source of wisdom and deep thought. You're invited to that. Just sign up, bring a friend. Should be a good time together this Thursday. Also, you've probably noticed the last few weeks, we've got a projector out. It looks like the sanctuary's winking. I can't get that out of my mind. But that projector is in California being, I don't know. The demons are being exorcised from that projector. And it should be back with us sometime in the near future, so hang in there with us on that. And we have VBS this weekend. Volunteer, pray, show up, stay, and leave after that. What a time for CJ to start. CJ, we're super glad that you're here. Y'all, working with children is not child's play. Did y'all know that? This morning, I went by the third floor where the children are. and Bible trivia was brought up to me, which is the practice. It's what happens up there. I'm a strong 15% on Bible trivia on the third floor. The question this morning was, how many times is the word grandmother mentioned in the Bible? Anybody? Anybody? See, the kids know. It's dangerous business. And then another child said to me, don't you have a sermon you should be prepping this morning? So it is not child's play. So before I come in here and depart heavenly wisdom, I fail Bible trivia every week. CJ, we're most grateful that you're working with our children. So grateful that you're here with us. The answer is 1. 2 Timothy, grandmother Lois and mother Eunice. Did y'all know that? Y'all did? Well, I'm sorry. I wish you had a better pastor. I'm sorry about that. As you go from this place today, go and love God with all that you are. All your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And go and love your neighbor as yourself. Do it as if it's the most important thing in all the world, because it is. And it will be your guiding light in when and how to show up, when and how to stay, and when and how to leave. Go in peace, and we'll celebrate again next Sunday. Peace be with you.
Most excellent preacher jokes. Love it.
Hey, thanks, man.